Thulani was the king of Richards Bay's meter taxi business. With a fleet of 12 taxis, he was known everywhere, celebrated for his success and larger-than-life lifestyle. Lavish parties, expensive cars and flashy watches defined his days, while his wife, Lerato, begged him to think long-term. But Thulani wouldn't listen. "This business won't go anywhere," he bragged. While Thulani basked in the spotlight, Lerato couldn't shake her unease. She often reminded him of how quickly fortunes could change, urging him to save and build security for their family. But her words fell on deaf ears. For Thulani, the good times felt eternal, and he lived as though nothing could touch his empire. What happens when confidence blinds foresight? This is the story of ambition, excess, and the cost of ignoring sound advice. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to BizBolts for more powerful lessons to inspire and guide your entrepreneurial journey. Thulani's mansion came alive every weekend, a beacon of excitement in Richards Bay's poshest suburb. The parties were the talk of the town, attended by everyone who was anyone. The driveway shimmered with luxury cars, their polished exteriors reflecting the golden glow of the grand chandeliers visible through the towering windows. Inside, no expense was spared. Lavish decorations adorned every corner, from silk-draped tables laden with exotic foods to floral arrangements flown in from Johannesburg. Waitstaff weaved through the crowd with trays of champagne, while a live DJ kept the energy high. Thulani thrived on this attention, basking in the adoration of his guests. This extravagant display wasn't just limited to his parties. Thulani's daily life was a spectacle in itself. He wore the finest designer suits, paired with Swiss-made watches that glittered on his wrist. His wardrobe was a testament to his success, filled with tailored outfits from exclusive brands. His fleet of luxury vehicles, ranging from sleek sports cars to top-tier SUVs, was more than just transportation. It was his way of announcing to the world, "I've made it." Adding to his flamboyant lifestyle, Thulani had numerous girlfriends, each one dazzled by his charm and apparent success. He spared no expense in showering them with gifts, from luxury handbags to weekend getaways. For Thulani, they were yet another way to flaunt his wealth and feed his ego, even as Lerato watched in quiet dismay. But, unbeknown to most, the grand mansion they lived in was not Thulani's own. For all his glamour and outward show of wealth, Thulani didn't own a house. Their luxurious home was rented, a fact he carefully kept from public knowledge. It was a detail that Lerato often brought up, her unease growing with every passing day. "Thulani," she would say, her voice calm but firm, "we can't live like this forever. This business won't always bring in money like it does now. Let's buy a house, something to call our own and save for the future." Her words seemed to bounce off him like raindrops on a glass pane. "Relax, Lerato," he'd reply with a confident grin. "The meter taxi business is booming and it's not going anywhere. We'll buy a house when the time is right. Right now, let's enjoy life." No matter how many times Lerato tried to reason with him, Thulani dismissed her concerns with the same arrogance. He saw no need to save, no reason to change. To him, his success was eternal, and there was no end in sight to the good times. Yet, as Lerato stood among the glittering parties and designer labels, she couldn't help but feel that their foundation was far more fragile than Thulani realized. The signs were there, but he refused to see them. For Thulani, the illusion of success was more comforting than the reality of preparation. The air in Richards Bay was electric with anticipation when the announcement came. Uber was expanding into the city. Social media buzzed with excitement, radio hosts debated the implications, and billboards gleamed with promises of convenient rides at unbeatable prices. For residents, it was a thrilling prospect. No longer would they have to wait endlessly for meter taxis or haggle over fares. An app on their phones promised to make transportation seamless and affordable. Thulani's drivers, however, didn't share the excitement. In hushed tones at the depot, they spoke of customers who asked about Uber's arrival, wondering when it would launch and how much cheaper it might be. Some of the younger drivers, curious about the hype, even downloaded the app to see what the fuss was about. Thulani, overhearing one such conversation, dismissed it with a laugh. "Uber? In Richards Bay?" he scoffed, shaking his head. "People here are loyal. They know us, trust us. No app can replace the relationships we've built." But as weeks passed, whispers turned into reality. Uber rolled out a massive promotional campaign, free rides for first-time users, discount codes flooding inboxes, and glowing reviews plastered all over social media. Customers began disappearing from Thulani's meter taxis. Drivers who once spent their days ferrying passengers now idled at taxi ranks, staring at their phones, waiting for calls that didn't come. Thulani started to notice the cracks. His once busy depot grew quieter and the day's earnings reports grew shorter. At first, he blamed the season. "It's just a slow month," he told Lerato, waving away her concerns. "People will come back, they always do." But Lerato was unconvinced. "Thulani, this isn't a phase. Look around. Uber is changing everything. You need to think of a way to adapt." Thulani's response was dismissive, his confidence unshaken. "Adapt? To what? A flashy app? It's just a trend. People here need us. We've been around for years and we'll be here long after Uber packs up and leaves." Even as more drivers reported that their usual customers had switched to Uber, Thulani refused to see the writing on the wall. "Let them go," he said, his tone laced with arrogance. "They'll realize soon enough that nothing beats the service we provide." The denial only deepened as Uber's footprint grew. Customers who once hailed Thulani's taxis with familiarity now preferred the convenience of a few taps on their smartphones. The younger generation, particularly, embraced Uber wholeheartedly, leaving Thulani's drivers frustrated and uncertain about their future. Thulani's once flourishing business began to hemorrhage. Each day, fewer passengers hailed his taxis, and each week, his depot grew quieter. Cash flow dwindled to a trickle. For the first time in years, Thulani struggled to meet his monthly car loan repayments. Fuel costs, maintenance bills, and the wages of his drivers loomed like insurmountable obstacles. Some of Thulani's most experienced drivers jumped ship to Uber, leaving him scrambling to replace them with less experienced recruits. The drivers who stayed began grumbling about delayed salaries. Some openly questioned if the business could survive. "Boss," one driver said during a tense meeting, "we can't keep working for free. If Uber's offering better pay, why should we stick around?" Thulani, his usual bravado replaced by irritation, snapped back. "If you want to leave, go ahead, but mark my words, they'll fail, and you'll come crawling back." At home, the tension was even worse. Lerato's quiet warnings had turned into desperate pleas. "Thulani, can't you see what's happening? Uber isn't going away. You need to adapt. Lower your fares, offer something they can't, and stop spending money on things we don't need." But Thulani's pride wouldn't let him admit defeat. "Cut fares? Compete with Uber?" he said, his voice rising. "That would destroy our reputation. We're not some cheap app-based service. We're the heart of Richards Bay." Lerato pressed on, her frustration mounting. "Thulani, we're losing everything. If you won't change the business, at least stop spending. Cancel the parties, sell a car, do something." But Thulani refused to change. He clung to the illusion that his empire was untouchable, even as it crumbled around him. To him, admitting defeat wasn't an option. It was unthinkable. The morning the first meter taxi was repossessed, Thulani was sitting in his office, staring at a ledger that had become increasingly grim. He hadn't expected visitors, so when the sound of heavy footsteps echoed through the depot, he assumed it was one of his drivers. But it wasn't. It was a team of representatives from Standard Bank, clipboards in hand, their expressions cold and impersonal. "Mr. Thulani," one of them said, "we're here to collect the vehicle. Your account is in arrears and there's no other option." Thulani's heart sank. He tried to argue, stalling with promises of catching up on payments, but the men were unmoved. As the first meter taxi was driven off the lot, his employees gathered in silence, their faces a mixture of disbelief and fear. It wasn't long before the second, third, and fourth vehicles followed. By the end of the week, his whole fleet was gone, leaving a once bustling depot eerily empty. But the repossessions didn't stop there. Thulani's personal vehicles, the gleaming symbols of his success, were also funded by loans. One by one, the sports cars and luxury SUVs that he had proudly displayed in his driveway were taken away. The rumble of engines leaving for the last time echoed through the neighborhood, a chilling reminder that his extravagance had come at a price. Thulani watched helplessly as the trappings of his former life vanished, leaving him with nothing but regret. Thulani's helplessness was palpable. The pride that had once defined him was now replaced by quiet desperation. Each repossession was a public reminder of his failure, and the remaining drivers began quitting in droves, unwilling to be part of a sinking ship. The day the eviction notice came, Lerato knew it was inevitable. She had begged Thulani to scale back, to find a smaller home months earlier, but he had refused. Now, the dreamlike facade of their rented mansion crumbled before their eyes. Movers arrived to pack their belongings, while Thulani stood in the driveway, his once confident shoulders slumped. The reality of their situation hit hardest when they arrived at the small, dimly lit apartment that would become their new home. The space was a far cry from the luxury they had grown accustomed to, barely large enough to fit the essentials, with cracked walls and a lingering smell of dampness. Lerato worked tirelessly to make it livable, unpacking their few remaining possessions, while Thulani sat silently, staring at the blank walls. Richards Bay was a small city, and word of Thulani's downfall spread quickly. The man who had once been the toast of the town was now a figure of whispers and pity. His name, once associated with success and celebration, became synonymous with arrogance and wastefulness. People pointed as he walked by, murmuring about the parties, the flashy cars, and the warnings he had ignored. "Did you hear what happened to Thulani?" they'd say. He had everything, and now he has nothing. Even his meter taxis are gone. The judgment cut deeper than Thulani expected. His former friends, the same people who had attended his lavish parties and toasted his success, now avoided him, unwilling to associate with his tarnished reputation. His numerous girlfriends, once drawn to his wealth and charm, abandoned him without hesitation when the money dried up. For the first time in years, he found himself alone, without the applause and admiration that had once fueled his ego. But the whispers weren't just judgmental, they were also filled with pity. Many in the community couldn't help but feel sorry for Lerato, the loyal wife who had stood by him despite his flaws. She tried to warn him, they said, if only he had listened to her. What lessons stood out to you in Thulani's story? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more engaging stories and valuable insights to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. Visit www.bizbolts.co.za for downloadable business plans and inspiring business ideas tailored for South Africa.